Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about a secret weapon that businesses use to see what's happening all over the world in real time. It's all about pulling critical data from a web that honestly doesn't always want to share it. So, let's get right into it. So, here's the core of the problem, right? Businesses, especially if you're in something like logistics or supply chain, you need tons of public web data. We're talking real-time shipping statuses from a carrier's website or inventory levels from a partner's portal. And you need it constantly. But the catch is, most websites are built for humans. One person, one click at a time. They're just not designed for the kind of automated, large-scale access that businesses actually need. Okay, let's make this real. I want you to meet our hero for today, a supply chain analyst. Their entire job, their whole world, revolves around data. They need to plug into shipping company APIs, think of those as direct data pipelines, to track a container that just left a port. They need to check a partner's dashboard to see if inventory is running low. Basically, they're pulling information from dozens of different places to predict and prevent delays. It's a mission-critical job, and it's completely powered by data. But the second our analyst tries to automate this whole process to get the info they need, they slam right into this huge obstacle. We like to call it the data wall. And it's the very first hurdle every single large-scale data operation has to face. And the way websites put up this wall is actually pretty simple. Imagine a website sees hundreds, maybe thousands of requests all flitting in from the exact same IP address. That's the unique address for one computer. It immediately thinks, uh-oh, that's a bot. It might throw up one of those prove you're human puzzles, or, more likely, it just blocks that IP address completely. And for our analyst, that means the flow of that critical shipping data just stops, dead in its tracks. So how in the world does our analyst get past this wall without having to sit there and manually check hundreds of websites all day? Well, this brings us to the key that unlocks the whole thing: proxies. To put it really simply, a proxy server is just a middleman. So instead of your computer talking directly to a website, it talks to the proxy server first, and then the proxy server talks to the website for you. And here is the magic trick. The proxy uses its own IP address, not yours. Your real identity is completely hidden. And this workflow here shows you exactly how it works. The analyst's data gathering tool shoots out a request. A proxy gateway grabs it and forwards it on, but with a brand new IP address. So, to the website, it just looks like a totally normal user asking for information, and it happily sends the data back. It's kind of like having a massive global team of couriers, where each one makes just a single delivery. No one ever gets suspicious. But here's the thing. Just using one proxy isn't really the whole story. If you want to do this at scale, you can't just look like one different person. You have to look like thousands of different people coming from all over the world. And that's where we get into the real strategy, the art of blending in. Okay, so not all proxies are created equal, not by a long shot. You've got data center proxies, which are fast, but their IPs come from, well, a data center. And for a smart website, that can be a huge red flag. But then you have residential proxies. These use real IP addresses that internet service providers assign to actual homes. So when a request comes from a residential IP, it looks 100% legitimate, just like you or me checking a tracking number. This is absolutely the gold standard for getting reliable access. And hey, you don't just have to take my word for it. This quote from a real user, it just nails the set it and forget it power of a good proxy network. The whole point is to make the technology just disappear into the background. That way, our analysts can focus on finding insights in the data, not worrying about whether they're going to get blocked again. So, how do you actually blend in? Well, it all comes down to a few key techniques. First, IP rotation. This means every single request you send gets a totally new IP address. Then there's request throttling, which just means adding tiny random delays so it doesn't look like a machine firing off requests at inhuman speeds. And finally, user agent rotation. A user agent is just a little piece of code that tells a website what browser you're using. So this makes one request look like it's from Chrome on a laptop, and the very next one look like it's from Safari on an iPhone. Okay, so we've got the tools, we've got the techniques, but what's the actual payoff here? Why go through all this trouble? Well, that brings us to the most important part, turning all this raw data into actual decisions. The first huge payoff is just sheer reach. With a really good proxy network, you're not just getting a few extra IP addresses to play with. You're getting access to a truly global footprint. We are talking about the ability to make your requests look like they're coming from over 140 different countries. For our supply chain analyst, this is an absolute game changer. They can now check a logistics partner's dashboard in another country and see the exact same information a local user would. This means they get perfectly accurate, localized shipping updates, and they can access those geographically restricted carrier APIs, all without ever leaving their desk. It gives them a true, real-time, global view of their entire operation. No more flying blind. And of course, it's not just about supply chains. This technology is vital pretty much everywhere. E-commerce companies use it every day to monitor their competitors' prices. Marketing teams use it to make sure their ads are showing up correctly in different parts of the world. Researchers use it to gather market data. The core principle is exactly the same. Reliable access to public web data gives you a massive competitive advantage. All right, let's bring all this home and talk about where proxies really fit into the big picture. Let's look at their place in the modern data toolkit. So here's the bottom line. For any company, any organization that relies on getting timely and accurate data from the web, proxies aren't a nice-to-have anymore. They are a fundamental, absolutely non-negotiable part of your tech stack. They are the pipes that make sure the data can actually flow freely and reliably. Now, with this kind of power, it's really important to talk about using it the right way. The best providers are super transparent about this. They have strict processes like know your customer checks to make sure users are legitimate, and they have very clear rules about what you can and can't do. It's all about enabling access to public data in a responsible and ethical way. And that leaves us with one big question for the future. We're in this constant cat and mouse game. As businesses find more and more clever ways to use public data, the websites that have that data are going to build higher and smarter walls to protect it. So the question is, how will the tools we use to access that data evolve to keep up? It's a fascinating challenge that's really going to define the future of information on the web.